What was the concept of that commercial? Like, just if you were to describe it.
It was a man and a leopard, who meet and create this fragrance. That's about all I could sort of tell you.
Yeah, I'm thinking David Lynch should be the one to pull that. Yeah. Well, let's talk about the ultimate movie that gets appreciated and then reappreciated and reappreciated and starts to, like a fine wine, just keep on blossoming. Mullholland Drive. We can talk, obviously there's those stories about the fact that it started out as a TV movie or a TV series.
Pilot.
It was going to be a pilot. Then they decided they would, and David Lynch tells a story about Mullholland Drive is this winding road that takes a lot of twists and turns, and the project itself took very bizarre twists and turns to get to where it did. There happens to be a Salon article that very interestingly analyzes how that movie functions, that the whole first 2/3 of the movie is a reinvented dream of Naomi Watts. Mm-hmm. Was that ever discussed between you and Mr. Lynch, or was it just...
No, because the first 2/3 of the movie was the pilot, for the most part.
Okay.
And the last third, was what we shot a year and a half later.
A couple sequences I want to talk about in the movie. First thing, you said regarding Lost Highway, you came on to set, the dialogue was all nice, and then you see the way it's playing with the subtext, and you go,
right,
holy shit, this is not what I expected. And then Mr. Lynch does the same thing to us in this movie. We see Betty rehearsing the scene with
Laura.
Laura.
Rita in the movie.
We see Naomi Watts rehearsing the scene with Laura.
Mm-hmm.
This will be the end of everything. What about you? What will your dad think about you? Stop! Just stop it! That's what you said from the beginning! Now, if I tell what happened, they'll arrest you and put you in jail, so get out of here before... Before what? Before I kill you.
The scene is again played out between Naomi and Chad Everett. And all of a sudden, this tremendous intimacy and desperation comes over the scene.
This will be the end of everything.
What about you? What do your dad think about you?
Stop it. It's what you said from the beginning. If I tell them what happened, they'll arrest you and put you in jail. So get out of here.
Before what?
And you feel like an idiot. You feel like, like both a magic trick's been done before you. And did you see that coming? Was it in the script at all that this would play out completely differently? Was it, No,
there was no real indication of that. And, when we just talked about it for a second, we both felt like the photography should sort of play it straight there and just present the scene in the environment that you've created and let the actors take over. And I think for a lot of people, they don't even realize it's the same dialogue.
Were you conscious of shooting it almost like a 1950s, like very composed, and when we talk about Naomi Watts emerging from the airport, it's almost like there's a little bit of filtration there. I don't know if there was or there wasn't.
Probably a little bit, yeah.
A little bit, and she walks out, and it just feels like it's almost like a Hollywood picture. You know what I mean? Was there an element of almost like mocking Hollywood with your photography, or is that?
I always felt like Mullholland Drive was his Sunset Boulevard. It was his sort of.
It's a fascinating comparison.
The disappointment of Hollywood. The vision of it and the reality of it are so different. And how tragic it can be, and you know,
Never thought of
both
it. Yeah.
named after two of the longest streets in the city.
Right. Did he ever bring up that comparison?
No, but he loves that movie. When he built his screening room, that was the first film he screened. So he loves the, you know, he just sort of has a reverence for old Hollywood. That
Yeah.
is,
When I look at Mullholland Drive, I see a lot of this magical Peter Deming quality of when we're inside the apartment that Betty gets set up at her aunt's place at the beginning. When we're inside the office where the audition occurs. The diner before we go outside and see the man behind the garbage appear.
was it a man?
Well, it looked like a monster. But you have this ability to make things contoured and engaging, but not like, you know, it doesn't feel like movie lighting. It just feels like, I don't know. I mean,
Right.
And you're sort of, you're never underexposing. I don't think. I mean, you can tell me better than I can tell you, but are you underexposing a little bit? Are you
Not on purpose, no. I think it's sort of, I would describe it as sort of natural light versus unnatural light. I think that, you know, in the aunt's apartment, most of those looks are sort of natural daylight, you know, maybe stylized a little bit. And there's a scene with Betty and Rita on the couch where we sort of stylize Rita, but Betty sort of lit naturally. And then, you know, when you get into Diane's apartment and those sorts of things, you sort of, you know, the light is more, it's more unnatural, where it doesn't really make sense when you break it down and analyze it, where the light should be coming from.
Right.
You sort of, you know, just go with more of a mood enhancing lighting style rather than, you know, what would be the case in reality. And as long as you don't go too far in that direction, you know, you can, it seems natural, but it's really not. It maybe has more of a creepy feel to it.
Right. And then on the converse side, the theater, the cowboy at the top of the hill, who
Yeah.
I think, if I'm not mistaken, the story is that he was one of the financiers.
He's one of the producers.
He's one of the producers and never acted or something like that.
I think he maybe was in one other film, but he didn't, I don't think he had the amount of dialogue he had in David's movie.
And that performance is, you know, how Walter Murch says we don't see beyond the edges of the frame, right? For the editor,
Right,
for us.
right.
It's just spooky.
Yeah.
The spooky performance, right?
Man's attitude goes some ways, the way his life will be. Is that something you might agree with?
Sure.
Now, did you answer because that's what you thought I wanted to hear? Or did you think about what I said and answer because you truly believe that to be right?
I agree with what you said. Truly.
You're a film guy.
I'm a film guy until this last movie.
Okay, until this last picture. Okay, but you love, like most great cinematographers, you love the stock.
Mm-hmm.
What were some of your favorite stocks over the years that you know?
I lose the numbers sometimes, but
Okay.
it changed so much. But
Yeah.
when they first came out with the,
77.
it was that film, but the previous version, I think it was 05.
Okay.
It was a 250 daylight.
The 250 daylight you loved.
Yeah, because you could, you know, even if you push it a stop, it didn't take much of a hit.
Yeah.
Sometimes I would use it at night,
Yeah.
you know, to get a different effect because,
Oh, cool.
you know, the spectrum was different on it, and so that was a great stock. And you know, the 19's a great stock.
Yeah.
They're probably those two.
Ever do anything crazy with the processing? Just for fun?
Yeah, I mean, we did a lot of. Well, actually, it was the reversal that we cross-processed on From Hell.
Right. Oh,
did a
right.
bunch of
Right.
stuff
Those
in From
sequences.
Hell with
Yeah.
that.
Although there was a lot of stuff in From Hell, like I seem to remember. I mean, there's a lot of close-ups on Johnny Depp that are just sort of memorable. And there's a scene where he and Holm are talking with a seemingly like a chandelier
Yeah,
in the
yeah.
middle of the room.
Yeah.
Beautiful effect. It looked extremely like real to what the setting was. But then there was there's one wide shot with a time lapse.
Yeah, it was motion control.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that was just like a beautiful, beautiful shot.
Yeah, those are always interesting because you really don't know what you have until you get it back from the lab.
Right.
You know, and then they do the dissolve between the A and B sides.
So what parts of was it all from Howell's cross-process reversals?
No. There were
It couldn't have been. 'cause
there were
it
like
was
these
too long.
I don't know what you call them, like killer vision or, you know, sort of snippets of the murders that we created like that. And, you know, we sort of, you know, in prep did some tests, we did the cross process, and then sort of like, well, how can we achieve that without actually cross processing? And then decided that we would just do it photochemically so it couldn't be changed. So down the road, you know, the studio couldn't say, we don't like that. You know. Well, sorry, it's baked in now. You can't.
Sorry.
Yeah.
So you actually consciously made that decision.
Yeah, I mean, because you're always sort of wary of locking yourself into something technically that even the filmmakers might decide they don't like later.
Right.
But they wanted to commit to that, and I agreed with them.
Right. Let's just jump ahead a bit to Sam Raimi, Drag Me to Hell. Well, this is a movie that I think nobody didn't like. You know, everybody liked this movie. The audience liked this movie. The critics liked this movie. This movie reminded us that an old-fashioned monster story could be absolutely riveting. And it was from frame one all the way on. Again, we see some very interesting photography from you. The things that jump out to me are, in the beginning, you did something to the look of it to make it feel a little bit old.
Yeah.
And then we have a little bit more contrasty look from you going into the modern day story than maybe you normally do.
Mm-hmm.
And then it gets really, really super interesting when we go back to the house and there's the seance and these other scenes.
Right.
Just, do you want to tell us what you were going for?
Well, I mean, it's sort of, we talked about it, you know, I just from reading the script, I told Sam it sort of reminded me of like a Hitchcock movie where you do have this element of a monster and the supernatural, but it's mostly based, you know, rooted in reality or the perception of reality from this girl. And wouldn't it be fun to sort of make, and, you know, Sam, one thing I remember about Sam, you know, even when he's making a monster movie or a dark movie, he doesn't like really dark the way, say, David would like really dark. He still is sort of a classic, you know, I want to see everything sort of taste, you know. So I thought that sort of look, that, you know, 50s look would sort of play into what he likes and might give it. And I think the most conscious effort of that was the dinner scene at the parents' house.
Right.
You know, it's sort of, you know, classic studio lighting, even though it was a location, you know, and sort of not overly dark, overly moody. You know, I think Kubrick proved a long time ago that bright could be just as scary, you know, in The Shining. It's like nothing was particularly dark in that film, but it was really, really creepy.
Yeah. Talk about Sam Raimi tropes. You know, old women with seemingly super Herculean strength.
Yeah.
Right? In Army of Darkness, you know. You're a soul!
Or, you know, the guy flying around with a deformed
Exactly.
mouth.
Yeah, exactly. But in this situation, the gypsy woman comes and attacks her in the parking lot.
Yeah.
In the car.
Yeah.
And I think everyone watching the scene thinks that it's just going to be a little scare. Like, we're going to see like a glimpse and then she's going to drive off. But no, the scene just gets worse and worse and worse worse and worse. And you're just like, this is a fucking fist fight. Like, they're just going at each other, right?
Yeah.
So how long does it take to shoot a sequence like that?
That scene was, I think we spent, in the location, we were there at least 5 or 6 nights.
Wow.
And then it was one of those, it's what, you know, in film production, it's what you call the phone booth, where there's always a scene in a movie where it's on the schedule, and then time permitting, at the end of the day, we'll get that phone call that we owe, you know. So there was always elements as he cut it together that he wanted to shoot. So we had the cars, you know, one of them came apart, and we just shot stuff in front of green screen pretty much the whole shoot. You know, oh, we need a close-up for the garage. We need a shot of Ganoush. We need a shot of a jaw hitting the thing, you know, whatever that he decided he needed, we would just do. And so it was the never-ending scene, you know, bits and pieces were added.
Well, it turned into be one of the most riveting things.
It's pretty epic, yeah, it is.
Yeah, it's an epic fight. How much of it is that Sam likes to get stuff in camera?
Oh, very much, very much.
Are you a big fan of that?
Yeah, whenever possible.
Yeah.
You know, because I think that things happen with mechanics and photochemical that you don't expect.
Right.
You know, happy accidents happen that, you know, something might happen that's even cooler than what you could imagine it would be, you know.
Right. Yeah. Things moving the wrong way or falling the wrong way or whatever.
Yeah, who knows?
Let's talk a little bit about Cabin in the Woods. One of the most original concepts, brilliantly executed in the last however long. Mm-hmm. It will stand the test of time, I think, as being, you know, because it just took, you know, it's one thing to take a genre and turn on its head. This movie, you know, tips its hat to a whole genre while never making anyone feel as though you're watching a movie about filmmaking, and yet you're watching a movie about people pulling strings and people manipulating and stuff like that. You know, it's always explaining horror movie tropes. Right. Where they cut, you know. And did you immediately just want to do it?
I did. You know, I was really interested in it. I wasn't sure. I guess my main concern was with the sort of second act and the sort of, you know, the sort of goriness of that and whether that was necessary or not.
Do you mean the very end of the movie when they're in the...
No, that's all. I'm with all that. You know, sort of the middle where, you know, they start killing
the actual kids.
Yeah. And sort of how much of that you had to show to sort of make it work. And that's where, you know, Drew and Joss particularly, you know, sort of really understand the genre and the audience for that genre, you know. And I remember a couple of times Drew, we talk about it, and once he said to me, you know, I have to show this. This is what, you know, this is part of the process. It's what makes these people underground so gruesome, really, is that they allow this to happen. And then we were doing a shot, I remember, in the cabin, and I asked him, you know, why are we doing this shot? You know, it doesn't particularly advance the story or anything. And he just looked at me, and this is him understanding his audience. He said, because it's cool. Because this is a cool shot. And the audience for this movie will get that.
Right.
And so...
Which shot is it, by the way?
I think it was behind Anna as she was going for the wolf head.
She
jumps in the frame.
It is, and starts French kissing the wolf head on the...
Well, that was after. That wasn't part of the shot I'm talking about.
I see, okay. She totally goes for it.
Right. But, you know, it's just sort of... they're so connected to the genre and the audience.
Right.
That they pushed all the right buttons.
Was there any cognizant effort put in to make the... Spoiler! When we go down to the underground layer, when they get there, the characters get there, was there a conscious effort as to how you were going to deal with, you know, with a different look or a different tone or?
Yeah, I mean, it had to be completely different than the rest of the movie, and it certainly was much more sort of clinical and industrial, and you know, and that was fine because it had to be. You know, it's enough of a shock thematically, you know, and reality-wise to these people that, you know, the environment had to be, you know, the opposite of what they would imagine, you know.
It's our task to placate the Ancient Ones, as it's yours to be offered up to them. Forgive us, and let us get it over with.
Yes.
The Oz the Great and Powerful. This, I'm just saying from a guess, is by far the biggest, craziest project that you've been involved with. At least it seems like
Yeah,
that.
I would say yes.
Okay. Format?
3D,
Oh,
digital 3D.
okay. Scared about that? Nervous about that?
I was for a couple of weeks until I sort of jumped into it and started learning about it. And, you know, once you sort of learn the theory and then get a couple of days hands-on,
Yep.
it's all common sense.
Right.
It really is
Were you
common
using
sense.
3Reality Technica for this?
We were
or-
using Element Technica. They were still separate at the time.
Okay.
They
So
hadn't merged yet.
these are the people that pioneered for Darius Wolski on
Prometheus.
Prometheus.
We used the exact same rig with the exact same cameras.
So Epics in stereo.
yes, with
Yes.
the Atom rig, although we use Panavision lenses, not
You mounted
Aries.
them to panties.
Yeah.
Okay. And my I've spoken to a few people in this world now, just for curiosity's sake. You know, not because I'm planning on shooting anything in 3D. We should have to a shot in 3D. My understanding is that like it's not just about like adding the second camera, it's bulkier and it's a lot more light because now you're going through the mirror and you lose half a stop or one stop. Yeah. No, it makes sense. It's 50% of the light. Just for curiosity's sake, how did you like work with the Epic?
I thought it was great. You know,
Yeah.
it's very small, obviously, for a 3D application. That was a huge advantage.
Yeah.
The onboard capture is a huge advantage.
Yeah.
Things change so fast in digital world. At the time we shot, which was 2011, basically the last 6 months, it was the highest resolution camera for what we were doing. I mean, we couldn't release the film in the resolution it was captured in. It would be too expensive.
Yeah.
So there's plenty of data to work with for visual effects. Sam loved to shoot, if it was film, he would love to shoot a lot of Vista Vision so he could blow frames up and recompose. You can do all that with the Epic.
Yeah.
We could, visual effects said you can blow up 50% with no loss in resolution.
Right. Did you like shooting 3D?
I did. I mean, for my first time out in digital
Yep.
and 3D, it was sort of it's a dream film. I mean, it's like I'll never have that luxury again, I don't think. We shot the entire film on stages.
Wow.
There's not one frame that's shot outside.
Wow.
That includes all the day exterior work.
Mm-hmm.
Huge sets, huge lighting setups, and just total control of everything. And, that just doesn't happen anymore. And it was a very conscious decision by Sam before I was involved, and I agreed with him completely to shoot it in the same fashion as the Wizard of Oz from '39, which was all on sound stages. And it was funny because as we started doing research, a couple of books written about the production of that movie at MGM in Culver City said that, the stages, they used so much light because that was Technicolor.
Yeah.
And the stages got so hot they had to, stop shooting and open the doors and let it air out. Fortunately we had pretty good air conditioning,
Right.
but, we're using an incredible amount of light to create the exterior. I mean, you have an enormous amount of light just to create ambient, and then you have to create a sun, which was a massive thing that we built that can
What
cover.
was in that, just out of curiosity?
It was par lamps. This is 178 par lamps, so that's 178,000 watts, and it was.
That's a lot of light.
The stages that we're doing this work, were like 250 feet long, so it had to cover 200 feet, which is a lot for a light.
Just out of curiosity, 178 1K pars, right? While that will generate that much light, with the fact that it's multi-point source going through, I would presume some one piece.
Mm-hmm.
You can still throw?
Yeah, oh yeah.
Okay.
I mean, 100 feet away, you turn it on, you feel the heat from it. There's no question.
It would cook you.
Oh yeah.
From 100
we
feet.
had, there's one set, there was a lot of greenery, and we had it was the scene took place early in the morning, so we had it quite low, coming, raking across the floor, and one of the evergreen trees basically turned brown. It got burned by this light.
You killed the tree. No trees were hurt.
No, we killed the tree. Yeah, we did.
Anything you're looking forward to doing next that you want or anything you'd like to do?
There's lots of stuff. I mean, I'd mostly like David to do another movie, whether I'm involved in it or not. But no, I'm looking, I don't know. I sort of enjoy it all. So I just do want to do something that I'm behind.
Well, thank you very much
You're
for
welcome.
giving us all these images over the years, for being involved in such a great personality to give to life to all these images. And
My pleasure.
all these images. Peter Deming,
All right.
thanks for joining us.
Okay.